Thank you for tuning into Ingrid's World. Meet an award-winning physician who is retired Brigadier General from the District of Columbia National Guards, whose roots are that of a Korean adoptee. Her journey has been amazing. And then you will meet an award-winning couple who are Rotarians that live in the Rotary motto, service above self. She was the first Rotary District 7610 governor in Virginia, and he just published an autobiography entitled The Invisible Patriot, Reminiscence of Burma Freedom Movement. So now let's welcome you to this show of Ingrid's World. Get ready to be inspired. Well, welcome to the show, Dr. Estelle Cooke-Sampson. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I want to first start off about where you started. I know you as a professional, and we've had lunch together often, but tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, Ingrid, I grew up in South Korea, and fortunately, I was adopted. At what age, we don't really know because I don't have accurate records. But anyway, I was adopted from St. Paul's Orphanage in Seoul. However, I later found out that actually I was actually probably born somewhere near Busan. Busan. And I just found that out in January after 14 years of struggling to find out where my origins were. But I was adopted by an American soldier, an African-American soldier at that, and it was very generous of him. And I remember the day that I met him, the very day the soldiers came to the orphanage, and it was my first time going to that second floor auditorium. And he put me on his lap and gave me a little package of gum. And then after that, he would come and visit me on the weekends. And eventually, I went to live on the post, on the military installation with him, and I was only civilian. And we were living in a Quonset hut. He was a supply sergeant, Sergeant Joseph Cook. After about 6 months living there, he was returned back to the States. And I remember flying in to Hawaii and traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast, and from New York down to Washington, D.C., entering D.C. on a train.
So we have a picture of you, and our viewers are going to see that of you on the Army base here. And my goodness, that's pretty powerful there.
I was waving to some civilians because I was, my father wanted me to see what Americans look like, civilian Americans look like.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing. So now you were in Washington?
Right. Basically, we lived in Washington, D.C. My father was away pretty much during the, we've stationed elsewhere, but we grew up, and in those days, basically, we were living in housing projects on Stanton Row, and they had 4 boys of their own, so it was 5 of us.
Wow.
5 children.
Wow.
So.
And then we have a picture of you in medical school. Is that correct?
Right. Well, that was after medical school. I had already done my internship. I was in the public health service, and that was the office there in Millsboro, Delaware, that I was the first physician there.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And where did you go to medical school?
I went to Georgetown Medical School.
Wonderful.
And here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my goodness. So I tell you, your journey has just, what were some of the obstacles that you faced on your path to becoming a doctor?
I think one, I had terrible language skills because when I was in Korea, I was in an orphanage situation where they really didn't speak to children, and some of it, I'm certain, has to do with just the wartime issues and the volume of orphans and the workload with the nuns, but also some of it is the mixed children were not highly regarded. So I'm certain some of that had to do with that because I didn't even know my name. I didn't even have a name that I knew of.
Wow. My goodness. How did you?
Well, they had a name assigned, certainly on paper when you got adopted, at least for me, but I could never pronounce it. I could never speak it. And I don't really remember speaking well until perhaps about junior high school.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So, when you look about that, and then you started speaking in junior high school.
Well, I spoke a little bit, but the home life was, I guess maybe perhaps I'd been institutionalized for so long, and I guess my mother probably had a lot to do with the 4 boys. I was pretty much independent and just functioned and led a pretty silent life.
Well, you've also had why I really wanted to, because you're so inspiring, certainly inspiring to me, because having that history, then to move on to graduate, being a physician, and it's just lets people know that you can just about do anything with determination.
Absolutely, absolutely. To be honest with you, I think all the people along the way, and I've been given many, many breaks and so many times of forgiveness and encouragement by my school teachers. Actually, even negative events were very encouraging for me.
Wow.
Very encouraging.
So that's like really powerful. Tell us a little bit about your military career.
Oh, I always wanted to be in a public health service because when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to work with public health nurses. And they were very interesting, and they were doing work mostly global. At that time, I was working at HEW, and they would go to AAA, do birth control issues all over the world. And so when I attended Georgetown, I had the opportunity to join the public health service. However, while attending Georgetown, I decided I wanted to be a radiologist. At that time, the public health service did not need radiologists. So I finished my commitment with the public health service and returned back to Washington, D.C., went to Howard to do my residency and fellowship in diagnostic imaging and CT cross-sectional imaging. While I was there, one of the doctors came by, and I don't think I weighed about 105 pounds. Anyway, I think they needed a warm body for the MASH unit. And he asked me to join, and all I knew to say was I didn't want to have to shoot anyone or fire a gun. He promised me, no, I would not have to do anything like that. Subsequently, when I went to officers training school, I did have to fire a weapon. And when I reminded him that I thought I didn't have to fire anything, he says, well, a gun is something on a ship. So anyway, that started my career. I realized then you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. So I enjoyed it. I found that it was a very good experience. I served for over 30-some years, and then, became a general.
And then became a general. You make it seem so easy, and I have to let you all know it's not easy, and I'm sure you know out there it's not. What I tell you, you're inspiring. I'm sure you're going to inspire so many who are going to see this show, who hope to be a Dr. Cooke-Sampson too. You have gone back to Korea since coming to the United States.
Yes, I did. I had the opportunity. I've been many times, basically to try to retrace my steps, to try to find out not so much who I am, but perhaps to find out my family history, or to find out how did I end up at the orphanage. And so I just wanted to find out more about who could have been my parents, who could have been my relatives, who were these people. So I did go back several times, but it was very challenging, very, very challenging to find out any information.
So we have a picture that we're going to show to our viewers of you speaking to, is this the nun?
Sister Agnes. I finally found out, it's a long story how I found out which orphanage, but basically after I found the orphanage, I had the opportunity to convince them that I had been there as a child. Because at first they wanted to deny that I had been there, but I could give the description of a building, the interior of a building, and the nun who was the supervisor of my section, which were the children about 5, 6 years old, the girls, she happened to be blind, so I don't think that, and I knew which way the building faced, I knew the height of the windows, because I remember what they would have the children to stand in front of the windows, so I knew approximately the height of the windows, and I remember the sun, the movement of the sun every day.
Wow, what a powerful memory.
So after that, Sister Agnes agreed that I had been there, and
and then we had also another picture of you also in Korea too?
Yes, this was during the SARS epidemic. I went to Korea 2003 with a church group out of Philadelphia, and that was a wonderful experience. And we went to the Korean village, and it brought back so many memories of my early life there.
Wow. So we're wrapping up towards the show, and I just want to know, what has been your philosophy? Because I think you really have a philosophy, keeps you motivated.
Well, Ingrid, I don't necessarily have a philosophy. I think, first of all, I've been extremely blessed in that I do believe that God has given each one of us a gift, and some of us many gifts. And I think that it is only responsible and the right thing to live your life, because no one else could live it for you, and to maximize on everything that is given to you.
Wow.
The bad and the good.
The bad and the good. Maximize.
Maximize.
Well, I had to thank you so much, Dr. Cooke-Sampson. You are amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, and I tell you, this has just been a moving interview. Well, coming up next, we'll be talking to Mr. and Mrs. Raschid, and they will talk about many things in their life in terms of service above self. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Ingrid's World. I am your host, Ingrid Paris Hicklin. Now let's talk to Tintin and Bilal Raschid, who are going to really talk to us about a lot of different things. Rotary, I hope.
Yes.
Well, let's introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Bilal Raschid. I'm a past assistant governor of Rotary in District 7610, and I've been in Rotary a long time.
Indeed, indeed, which is a wonderful thing. And Tintin?
I'm Tintin Raschid. I'm a past district governor. I was the first woman governor from this area.
Oh my goodness.
19 years ago.
And I recall reading in your bio that when you became governor, there was only 12 women?
Yes.
Who
in
were
the entire world.
In the entire world?
Yes.
How many million?
1.2.
1.2.
Yes.
Oh.
But there were 530 governors in the...
530 governors.
And there were 12 women.
And just 12 women.
Yeah.
My word.
Because I was in the second group.
You were in the
of
second
women
group?
governors. The first group had only 8.
My
8
goodness.
women.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to know both of you.
Thank you.
Well, let's tell our viewers about Rotary, because hopefully we're going to inspire lots of future Rotarians out there.
Hope so.
So, would you like to start with it?
About Rotary?
Yes.
Well, Rotary is the world's largest social service organization, and it gives you the best opportunity not only to utilize from the money point of view, because there's no wastage of money, but the personal involvement gives you, both the recipient and you, joy and improvement in their lives.
Oh, and it's like so important that happens.
Yes.
So, when did you become a Rotarian?
1962.
1962.
53 years. 4th of July, actually. It's interesting, the Rotary Club of Rangoon in Burma,
Yes.
which I joined, was they meet on Wednesdays, and that first Wednesday in July happened to be July 4th, which is not a holiday in Burma. So I was inducted into the rank, and it was the only club in the capital city, then capital city of Burma.
Wow, that's amazing. And Tintin, when did you become a Rotarian?
You know that, you know very well that they would not accept women.
I knew, that's why I started with, I said, I knew it was later.
But we have the women's group called the Inner Wheel.
Oh, really?
Wheel inside a wheel. It's not very popular in this country, but I mean, it started in Baltimore a long time ago. But most of the Inner Wheel members are from other countries. So I was president of Inner Wheel twice as well.
Wow.
And helping the Rotarians with their projects. So I became in 1989.
1989.
Yes.
Long
Even
Rotarian.
26 years now.
26 years. So now, what offices you have held? See, you have a very important jacket on. You don't get that jacket anywhere. Can't buy that.
Yeah,
Have
this was the theme of my year, and we've done everything in Rotary, starting right from the bottom to the top. So
wonderful, I tell you, and it's pretty exciting with that. What are some of the projects that you really love that you've been able to do through Rotary?
Well, it's, whenever a crisis occurs, of course, you get involved in a bigger way. And in Burma, the situation was different because what had happened was, at the time I joined, a military coup had taken place. So things had slowed down. But after we migrated, Tintin and I, with our 3 children, to Pakistan, and my membership continued there in the Rotary Club of Karachi, when Pakistan broke up into 2 countries, from East Pakistan, West Pakistan,
Yes.
to Bangladesh and Pakistan, hundreds of thousands of refugees started coming into the city of Karachi, and they were dumped into the semi-desert areas north of the city. So I was chairman of the Community Service Committee of the Rotary Club of Karachi then, and we carried out, and Tintin helped. She was not a Rotarian then, but she got the women to help us to alleviate the suffering and assist the refugees. The second big project was a polio immunization project. We had a polio scare in the sort of semi-slum areas where in outskirts of Karachi, and over 6,000 children were immunized against polio over a year period of 1 year. In those days, I don't want to go into too much detail, but this project was done almost 10 years before Rotary International started its signature
Yeah, because that's a signature project.
Polio Plus. And we are almost about to eradicate polio from the face of the earth.
only 3 countries remain, as you know.
There's only 3 countries.
Yes.
So which
Well, actually, only 2 are left now, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Nigeria was hanging in there, but Nigeria has been declared polio-free recently. So
recently?
Yeah, very recent.
Just very recently.
So, I mean, and that really means a lot. I was at the Rotary Convention when Bill Gates spoke about the partnership. That was pretty moving.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about how that works? How does that?
Well, as you know, the Rotarians give their personal time, but we do need the money for other organizational purposes. So Rotary had raised, when the project started in 1988, Rotary had raised 240 million. The target then was to raise 120, but they raised 240 at the International Convention in Philadelphia. But as it went along, the wealthy people with big hearts learned about Rotary's Polio Plus, and people like Bill Gates came and started contributing. But he actually challenged us. He said, I'll give you 50 million or whatever it was if you will match it. Wow. He'll double it. So
Did we match it?
So he did.
Yes,
he's
we
done
did,
more than matching.
Really?
More than matching, yeah. And Rotary has honored him by giving him an award.
So, you know, it's such a privilege to have you both here because it's really service, and that's what you've done.
Right.
And that inspires, you know, hopefully our viewers and people who are looking out there. You know, before you came on the set, you were talking about an E-Club. I love that. And
yes.
what was a little bit about that E-Club?
Yeah,
that you were just
E-Club
talking?
is the electronic club. And Rotary started that for people who cannot attend regular meetings because of their work, occupation, or because they are disabled by health issues. So what we do is we'll meet on the internet. Wow. I've just recruited your guests.
I saw that out there. Well, we're all Rotarians all the time. We don't turn it off and on.
So I'm just about to have to apply for an application. So anybody's interested can contact me.
I love it.
Yes.
So they have your information because it's flashing underneath your name of you. We have 5 minutes, and I want you to devote that to talk a little bit about this book. Sure. I started reading this, and The Invisible Patriot. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, well, when you started, I mentioned the Rotary Club of Rangoon, Burma.
Yes.
We are originally from there, and my father was one of the founding fathers of independent Burma, when Burma became independent from British colonial rule. And he was also a president of the Rotary Club, then became governor of that district, and it had 5 countries in his district, unlike here, where it's just the state of Virginia. So my father was the only patriot in Burma of Asian Indian origin, of Indian birth. And so after the military coup, it's a Buddhist country, predominantly Buddhist, they said, we don't want this Indian in our history books. So they erased his name from the history books. And that made me a little angry. So I thought, although a lot of different people who write about the politics of Burma mention him here and there, so there are a lot of little snippets, but there's no full story of his life. So I thought I would produce this book and preserve it for some people at least, and for the family.
And for the family. It's wonderful, well written. So you have your book here, and that's been amazing. So that's what you inspired. Who should be reading this book?
Well, people who would like to know more about Rotary can also read it. And it has anecdotes about character building, because Rotarians are also involved in teaching young people ethics and moral aspects. So the way my father brought me up, we lived in Pakistan, a very corrupt country. I could have become a multimillionaire there if I had fallen into that trap, but I didn't. So there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of the history of Burma, and about Burmese expatriates in the United States who organized themselves into a group and assisted Burma's restoration to democracy.
Wow.
So that whole story is in there.
So it's a powerful story. And so you wrote this book, and Tintin, what's the thought about you doing a book?
Oh, at the moment I'm still trying to form the E-Club, and I'm also involved with the General Federation of Women's Clubs. So I have,
really?
Yes, I'm the district president for the Montgomery County.
It doesn't sound like you sleep much,
no.
both of you. I think you just keep going. What an inspiration to both of you. I particularly like, you know, how you're bringing, both of you bring both pieces of what Rotary is about. We must remember what our past and the journey that we've been on, but then also for the future, and particularly with the millenniums, our Generation X. I think that E-Club fits right in.
Also, sorry, go ahead.
Also, in this book, he has written about how we have gone through 2 very difficult migrations, and each time the Rotarians have come to our rescue.
See that?
Yes.
When we landed in Pakistan, we were almost penniless. And I walked into and we had no family, no friends, and I had no job. And I walked into a Rotary Club, and there was my family. And the same thing happened when we came here. I walked into the Washington, D.C. Rotary Club, and there was my family. So,
Wow.
so
really
it can be helpful in that sense, although Rotary is an outward-looking organization
Wow.
of men and women with big hearts, and America is full of caring people. So Rotary is the best way to join and serve the community and the world.
Well, we're going to end it on that note because I'm hoping that people they're going to hear this and they know how look out to Rotary. That is an excellent organization.
Yes,
And as you
Yes.
said, family.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you know what? As I think of my own club, I think you're right on target.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being wonderful
Thank you.
guests. I'd like to thank our great guests for being on the show. My final thought is from Arthur Ashe. From what we get, we can make a living. What we give, however, we can make a life. Thank you for watching Ingrid's World, and don't forget to like us on Facebook or see ingridsworld.org for a broadcast schedule of Ingrid's World. Thanks for watching. I would like to thank the Prince William County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for underwriting this episode of Ingrid's World. This year marks the 31st year that the Prince William County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has hosted the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day Program for Prince William County, Manassas City, and Manassas Park in Northern Virginia. The cornerstone of this event is a youth oratorical competition in which 3 middle and 3 high school students will speak on this year's topic, Imagine. Imagine what if students will think creatively and imagine things such as, what if MLK were alive today? What if MLK was to meet the president? And what if the world had a ban on all wars? The program will also feature a program by the MLK Community Choir. So join us on January 18, 2016 at the Hilton Memorial Chapel at 11 a.m. Snow date is January 23, 2016, also at 11 a.m. You are guaranteed to leave inspired by the erudite, optimistic words and music of our youth. So for more information, please see www.pwcadst.org.